is happening?
Good afternoon.
What is
Good morning if you're, I guess, West Coast. What's going on, my friend?
what is that intro from Anchorman? Good morning, good evening, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
So good. So good. So what's happening, man? How was the weekend?
Weekend was great. We brought Honey Badger to the North Coast Harbor, otherwise known as the Rockin' Dock, because it's right in front of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and saw the best air show. I mean, it's the way to watch the air show. You know, you got these F-16s or whatever these fire jets are, literally like flying right over the boat. So it was an absolute great weekend. The weather's perfect, and we're on a countdown. We got 9 days left to Rock and Rescue 2023. 510 tickets sold already, so we are climbing to that 1,000 number. And just met with the sponsors, so it's not too late to grab your tickets. Not too late to grab a hotel room. We got a block. There's only like 10 rooms left in the block right now for the Aloft in Cleveland. So come join us and come have some beverages and have a great night over the stars.
It's gonna be epic. I love that location. It's such a great spot. They're in the land, and it's a pretty cool coffee shop right next door too.
Oh yeah. Little 27 club.
A little 27 club right next door. It's always good.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, appreciate you guys jumping in. Hope you guys had a fantastic, great, safe Labor Day weekend, and really turning your sights here towards statistically, and I think, don't hold me to this, but what are 80% of statistics are made up anyways. So I believe I think it was Northwestern Mutual. They have one of the best recruiting programs of any company out there. And I believe the months are October, November, and January are the top 3 months that professionals make moves. And especially when you look at the real estate space, the real estate industry, this is about the time. And I mean, it's seasonality. Also kiddos getting back into school. They're starting to get kind of serious about where's my business at? Where's my business going? A lot of agents right now, Al, that I'm talking to, they don't have anything on the books, and they're starting to get a little concerned. They're concerned about, they're concerned about the holidays. They're concerned about Christmas. They're concerned about going into the new year. And so for those of you, that are looking to increase headcount, talking to other agents, be there, understand. And I think this is kind of our level of emotional intelligence, with one of the key tenets of emotional intelligence being empathy and being able to put yourself in other people's shoes, and knowing that there's a lot of agents out there right now that are really, lost, confused, insecure. I mean, they just don't know what to do because there's so many agents that kind of went through the unicorn years. If you want to kind of put a label on that, from 20 really up until about the last 12 months. If you really cut your teeth in that type of market, I mean, it was a unicorn market. And yeah, it had its challenges. There's no doubt. However, what it caused bad behavior. It caused a lot of reactiveness, being reactive to what's going on. And I think right now, getting back to a normal market and back to, normal amount of home sales, we're starting to see down of agent count, but getting back and understanding seasonality, getting back and understanding, these things has as a lot of agents that went through it have forgotten about it. And then there's a lot of agents that haven't even experienced it. So I think, for us that are looking to increase headcount, having a level of awareness of where people are at in their feelings, but also knowing what they really need at this time, and thinking through of, okay, how can I have that conversation, but also what results can I help them get? And coming back down to, really engaging in those type of conversations. But I think it stacks the deck in your favor if you know that people are out there, they're lost, confused, and insecure, and that you do have the solution to be able to help them.
Yeah. So, I mean, like Jay was sharing with you, we've been kind of sharing our journey with the results of this webinar that we've been running for a long time. Those calls are now going into my calendar right now. So I'm getting a little taste of, what Jay's been dealing with for the last few months anyway, of talking to a lot of agents who are stuck. I mean, it's safe to say that the biggest reason why people are attending our webinar is because they're stuck and they're confused and they want to grow their business. And that translates to these calls. When I'm on calls with these agents, some of them are like brokers. They just own their own shop. Some of them are just single agents. And the theme is a couple themes here. One, most of them really love their broker, but they don't really know why they love their broker. Meaning they just have a good relationship, but beyond that, they're not helped. They're still struggling, and they're still, not getting what they really need from their broker, which is leadership and a way to double their business, triple their business, for helping them solve the problem. Like I was just with a Remax. It's a mother-daughter team, and out of Texas, as a matter of fact, and she just loves her broker. But doesn't exactly know why, other than they have a good relationship. And the advice I'm going to give everybody is do not push back against that to the, when they have that tight bond, that tight relationship, you don't push back against it. You go with the flow like judo. I always say, you know what, I can relate to that. I loved my broker owners. In fact, when I opened my own brokerage, I got emotional with them when I was leaving because it wasn't them. I loved them. But there was a bigger opportunity to help myself and my agents grow. And I just share it that way with them and always remind them that I respect the fact that they love their broker.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's almost kind of like a psychologist. You got them on your couch here, and you need to bring them to their own emotional and logical conclusion. Let them bring themselves to it by kind of inserting little pieces of doubt. For instance, I said to this lady, I said, I was there for 6 years at Remax. I was the number one agent, and I got no ownership in the company and no stock in the company. And after 6 years, exact same amount of time with my broker here, I'm sitting on over $500,000 in stock, and that's just after 6 years. And so, she wants to retire in 5. So you focus on the problem solution, not, you're not going to talk them out of, liking their broker. You kind of have to move into it. I don't know, Jay, if you, Jay.
Yeah. I do. I want Jay to run with this real quick, because it's something that, it comes down to kind of the recipe for change. And yet what we have to also remember is that a lot of real estate connections is really relationship driven, right? So there's the bond there is loyalty, and then the bond there is I gave my word. And so that's not ever going to change, right? There's a fortress there. And so they have to go through the recipe of change. And one of the things that we came to the conclusion, and Jay, I want you to kind of unpack this, because, when we were introduced to that recipe of change, there was one overarching thing that was missing. And you can't change anything without this one thing. And that's a level of awareness. And change is impossible without awareness. And a lot of these agents are so fixated on their belief of loyalty and I gave my word and what they did for me. And I had a great conversation with Joel Perso as Joel is taking Sphere Rocket from the COO perspective and really helping, Justin take it to that next level. And he's always been, he really latched onto the 1s and 3s concept from Clay. And the 1s and 3s is that, certain teams and certain people will get you to one level. They'll get you to 300,000. They might be able to get you to $1 million, but they'll never get you to that next step of 3 million. And so they're experiencing that with Sphere Rocket. But you even think about that in your own career, in your own jump, right? So like you might be at a broker that can get you to a certain phase, but a platform and a brokerage and leaders and teams and support are not going to get you to that next level. And so you're really looking for growers, but because I would love for you to kind of, unpack that recipe of change and kind of some more context around the level of awareness.
Yeah, I mean, the lights blinding us back here. Yeah. I mean, the in every one of these conversations, like, I embrace the fact that they love their broker. I focus on what the goal is, and do you have a plan? And that's what we come back to every time is, okay, do you have a plan? What, and if you don't do this, what's your plan? And how confident do you feel in your plan? And that's, when they get crystal clear on that, they stop focusing on, oh man, it might still be a hard conversation and you still got to really stick with them to the, till they get through the process, because, they'll get cold feet, or their broker will make them a promise, or, and all these things will start to give them pause. If you don't stay really focused on, all right, here's the plan, here's the game plan, and here's what we're going to do, and here's what's going to happen once you start day one, then we're going to have this meeting, and then we're going to lay out your lead gen so we can get you to that goal. And, the guy that's joining today, he wants to retire his wife in a year. She's, she can retire in a year from the police department. That's his goal. Currently doesn't have a plan. He's behind where he needs to be. Not even sure if he's going to be able to make real estate work, and, that's how unconfident he was. Loves his broker, loves his company. He believes through a series of conversations that this is a better way for him, the better vehicle for him to get to his goals. And that's why he made the switch and had the difficult conversation with the guy who got him into real estate, right? Guy that, he really appreciates, helped him a lot, but at the end of the day, he wasn't confident that he had a plan that he was going to be able to get to his goal. But like, that's what it always comes back to, in all of these conversations. And not everybody does it. A lot of people, will, they'll stay where they're at. And, I just tell them, hey, listen, if now's not the right time, I wish you the best. I'm happy to help you any way I can. I'm going to be here when you're ready, and I'll put them in my long-term follow-up, because eventually someday they're going to realize that I'm not going to get there doing the same thing I keep doing. And hey, that one guy that keeps following up with me, maybe it's time for me to make this move. So, that can summarize pretty much every person that I talk to. They like where they're at. The math usually always makes sense, but it's really focused around, what are you really trying to do, and what's your plan to get there? And if they can see them getting there faster with you than without you, then they'll make the switch.
Yeah. Because we always, jokingly, but we mean it, that they're all coming. And so it's just a matter of time. And one thing that I've really encountered more so is that they're all coming to this type of platform, and they all believe that this is the superior model for them long term. So even your other brokerages that don't have this plugin, this type of platform, and then obviously if they believe that, then you can then you can have the conversations, the plan, and who they align with, and the superior model, and the long-term longevity, and there's all of that conversation. But I just wanted to emphasize, because they're all coming. It's just a matter of time. And I think what I see and hear a lot of is that they're all coming to this type of platform, no matter what. And so don't pass the conversation in having the tough conversations with a lot of agents. And it's really not tough, because you're just inquisitive. You're asking them, like you said, goal, what's the goal? What's, it's clarity and a plan. I think what the study that you like to recite out of Atomic Habits, I think gives some context around that too.
Yeah. Funny, I got a text message. It's so crazy too. I haven't shared that with any of y'all, but I got this text message video from a blast from the past. You guys will appreciate this. It's so crazy. I get lots of text messages, so give me a second here. Oh, I need to search his name.
While Jay's pulling that up, any of you guys tuning in, if you have any questions or anything that you want to throw at us, there it is. Al.
Does that look familiar?
Al.
Can you see it? The turning point. It's for Brett Jennings. Okay. So
I love it. The $1 billion man.
Mike, Jay, I just wanted to give you a little blast from the past. So found this and thought I would share it. Look at this. Okay, we're going to get the clarity report to determine our GPS and lay out a strategic plan. So I did this the first time on November 8th, 2011. I actually did it a second time in 2015. But in 2011, check this out. I said that I was going to set some big goals to make 200 grand in 24 transactions. But then I said, okay, where do I want to be financially 10 years from now? I said 2 to 5 million in savings. Check. 10 million plus in real estate properties owned. Check, check. 50K a month in passive income. Check. Sold my franchise office of 200 plus agents and top producing for 3.5 million. Well, we've had offers well above that. So, and what I wanted my personal life to look like 10 years. Living abundance, traveling, teaching others to be successful and abundant. It's all happening, bro. So just the power of a plan. Thanks for inspiring me on the vision, and hope you guys are doing great. Have a great one. Later.
how crazy is that? How
Aged
relevant
at
is
all.
that? Huh?
He doesn't look like he's aged at all.
I know. Yeah. And he found the fountain of youth. That's Brett Jennings. And that was in 2011. And he's saying exactly what we say all the time. Like he put it out there. He got clear. The method of how he got there was probably not at all how he thought he was going to get there. But it starts with getting clear, laying out a plan. Where are you trying to get to? Like that's, I see it over and over and over. And it's funny. I was listening to, which I recommend everybody go listen to the podcast with Hulk Hogan and Joe Rogan.
Just finished it.
They're such a great interview. First of all, it's super entertaining. I just didn't know that much about his whole entire story. But they get into this conversation where Hulk Hogan he basically, and I didn't catch the timeline when this was, but he was already super successful. And he had the guy that does his audio stuff on his car reprogram his car to play The Secret over and over and over and over and over again. He said, I probably listened to it 10,000 times. And like Rogan's kind of a little bit like, it's not just the visualization, it's also the action behind the plan. And they got to talking about Sean O'Malley and the UFC and the interview they did with Sean O'Malley after the fight. And they asked him, they said, you manifested this. You said this was going to happen. And he said, are you surprised at all that that you're here now that the champion? He said, no, I'm not surprised at all. He said, I knew I was going to get there and I put in the work to do it. And like, that's the people, it's funny. People that walk up to me and tell me crazy shit they're going to do generally fucking end up doing it. It's just what it is. Like, once you put it out there and your subconscious has heard, this is what you're trying to do. This is what you're trying to get to. It's weird how the world just moves around like water to get you to that goal. You don't even sometimes realize some of the decisions you're making are because you said you wanted to do this. You wanted to have this, be this, accomplish this, experience this, whatever. And so I thought it was a really good interview. And Hogan said, when he first started in 1977, he told this wrestler, this Japanese wrestler guy that was like the top of his craft or whatever. He said, I'm going to be the greatest wrestler the world's ever known. And he said he didn't know how he's going to do it, but he put it out there, right? And so like it's crazy how many people have, and then they go on to say, which is probably true. There's probably a lot of people that say those things and don't do the work. These are people that did the work that comes with the vision. But so there's probably more people that say it and don't ever do it. But it starts with the vision. Like you have to have a vision for where you're trying to get to and what you want in life, and you got to get clear on that. And I just thought it was super cool, great interview with Hulk Hogan. Just talking about his journey of, getting to where he's at. And then, Sean O'Malley, and then you see all these examples. And then Brett Jennings sends me this text message the same damn day. I'm like, man, if there's ever a sign of, following the process and creating a plan and getting clarity of how important that is, it was super relevant to hear. It was pretty cool, I thought.
So good, man.
The other cool thing about that is that if you start to have that kind of conversation with a recruit, you can pretty much bet that they're brokering having that kind of a conversation. They're not even using, you know what I mean? Like, they're not using that vernacular. They're not speaking to them in, to what the future looks like that. Cause they're just trying to like maintain, a broker's trying to add head count and then maintain that head count. And it doesn't leave them a ton of time to do the deep work that we do when we start working with somebody.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's that vision. And what I would challenge, everybody even going through it, and you saw, Brett in the initial, right? And he had to go back and redo it, 200,000, 24 transactions. And that's kind of the case for a lot of agents, especially before you jumped in, cause we're talking about, a lot of agents are, really concerned about between even now and the end of the year. And then you're like, man, how do you want me to think about 10 years from now? How do you want me to think about 5 years from now? And it's I keep coming back. I mean, it's the Dan Sullivan, statement of if you're not happy with your present situation, it's because your future is not big enough. And for our present to be better, our future has to be bigger. And that's what I would always challenge any agent going through that process is like, I would challenge you to think a little bit bigger. And because you're not thinking big enough, and we're all fall victim to it. And listening to, back to Rogan, even when he had Jelly on, and, Jelly's vision was to sing on the Grand Ole Opry. And he had that, it took me, however many years, to go 17 miles or whatever it was, 7 miles to go 37 years to go 7 miles or whatever it was to get to the Grand Ole Opry. And he's like, well, that's all I ever wanted. I wanted to be in the newspaper and I wanted to sing the Grand Ole Opry. And it's like, well, what's next? Right. What's the big compelling vision that's going to push you beyond, kind of where you're at currently.
No doubt. It's crazy too. Like, we go back to, I don't think I have them here. I don't even know where they're at this point, but all the binders from the very beginning, like when and just like Brett's scenario, 24 transactions, 200 grand. When I first did that process was with Coldwell Banker. My dad had just bought the company. I'd never gone through a goal setting exercise before. I'd been in real estate a year, sold like 22 houses. The average was like 50,000. There were a bunch of shit. Everything nobody else did. But I set a goal and it was 35 grand. My 5-year goal was only 50 grand. And when I go back and look at that, I laugh. I'm like, damn, I sure wasn't thinking very big. But then, then there was just, as I was on that journey, that next year when I set that 5-year plan, I was like, well, shoot, man, I think I can make 100 grand doing this. And then it was like, okay, I think I can make, next year, I think I can make, I went from, making 200 grand to 500 grand to $1 million, each year because I reverse engineered the plan and understood what I had to do to get there. And, once you see, oh, that's only 2 transactions a week or whatever, like, you start doing things that you maybe wouldn't otherwise do because it seems very doable, and it is very doable. That the income goal that you have is absolutely accomplishable. When it's, it's not so big that, in 1 year I want to, make $1 million my first year. You got to learn a lot of shit before that's going to happen. Right. Like, but you can go from 200 to 500 and 500 to $1 million. Like those are numbers that are, very doable and really not that many transactions or, that's, but yeah, we start off sometimes with too small of a goal for ourselves or a vision, too small of a vision. I think the goal sometimes we set is maybe the right one, but the vision isn't big enough, like where you're going from there and what it's going to look like and how many people will be on your team. When you start to really envision, I'm going to have, 3 agents on my team. I'm going to have, I'm going to be doing 10 transactions a month. I'm going to have a closing coordinator, a listing coordinator. Like when you start really envisioning what what your business looks like, you start to, know, okay, these are the activities I got to be doing on a daily basis. And what's that leading indicator that I'm measuring that's driving the end result I'm after? That's the key to, the daily, to going back to atomic habits, to get to the goal.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for a lot of people if they can't see it. That's why it's sometimes easier to draw that inspiration from those that have achieved those type of things. And it can carry over from industry to industry. It doesn't matter. And I don't know if you guys caught what Courtney Dauwalter did over the weekend, winning Mont Blanc, which is arguably one of the toughest foot races on the planet. And she was on Cam Hanes' podcast earlier the year, and Cam challenged her to win the 3 hardest foot races in 1 year, in 1 summer. And she won all 3. I think she set world records in 2 of in like Western states. I think I can't remember the other one. And then Mont Blanc over the weekend, and she won Mont Blanc, but she like first person to ever win all 3 in 1 summer. It's like you can't even like make that shit up. And Cam was like, he kind of challenged her, and she goes out and does it. Right. So now it goes back to the 4-minute mile, right? Nobody thought it was possible until it was. And then, you're able to unpack it and figure out, how we're able to achieve it. So I think sometimes it's be able to find those things and draw off the inspiration, and like, if another human being can do that, why can't I?
I mean, I don't know a ton about this topic, but it seems like it kind of like aligns with the whole manifestation, putting it out there, putting it on paper, just that mental exercise and the time that you're taking it puts it out there to the universe. And they say that the universe conspires to help us win, or it's going to do the opposite. It'll conspire to help you. And I think it just depends on where you're going to put your mindset, which is, that's a purposeful thing. You can either believe that it's possible, or you can believe that it is. So, speaking of manifestation and conspiring, that I don't know if you caught it, but in that Hulk Hogan interview with, there's a book that was written. It's called Conspiracy, about the whole thing with Hogan and his, that sex tape issue that he had to go through and all that against Gawker, and he ended up winning like $170 million. It was the biggest lawsuit won ever by against a media company. Really great read. Check it out if you're looking for something to distract.
Did you get through it? Did you get through the book?
No, I mean, I'm at the end now, so I'm not.
Conspiracy? Yeah.
Good book. What I like about the book, aside from it's a cool story and everything, is when they talk about conspiracy, most people think of it in a negative connotation, like people are conspiring in a negative way. And my takeaway so far is, conspiracies, when you conspire for the good, it can also be, a positive conspiracy can take place, right? But it's something that no one believes can happen. So except you, the conspirator. So we believe you should be conspiring for your success to hit your dreams, and be just crazy enough to do it.
Love it. Yep. Love it.
And by the way, Jay, I wrote this down because I have my entire yellow pad here of the notes I take for all my recruiting calls. And, I don't bring it up directly. It's more indirectly, but clarity and the plan to get to the goal. Clarity is just another way of saying, like, what is your goal? Are you clear on the goal? Are you clear on the path you're going to go there to get to that North Star, whatever that is? What's the plan to get there? And you keep coming back to that. So I appreciate you reminding me on that one.
Yep.
I'm going to change my calls up a little bit.
Yeah. And then, the next step, and I love this analogy, the way to think about it. Right. And our businesses, it goes back to it's a creative world, right? So we get to create it and design it however we want. And when you have clarity, and then you have kind of the roadmap, you need the vehicle to get you there. And I love the visual of, your business, how you design it is your airplane. And Jay, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and what type of airplane do you need to get to where you want to go? But then more importantly, you're the pilot. So who do you have to become as the pilot to be able to fly your airplane on the plan that you have to the destination where you want to go, right? right things, right order, code and sequence to everything, man. And it, clarity, plan, destination, the roadmap, the vehicle, and then you're the pilot. Who do you have to become in order for you to be able to fly that damn airplane, or ride in the back and you're leading the pilot, or maybe you got some AI shit and the plane's flying itself, but nonetheless, you're getting it to where you want it to go.
Yeah, that's one thing. If I could get Brett Jennings on a call, that I'd want to discuss is who did you have to become, and what things did you have to overcome to get to the goal? Because that's the real gold. Is like there were walls that I know Brett hit along the way where he had to become better in areas that maybe he didn't really want to, but he knew in order for this to, and I know because I know his story, some of those walls that he hit, you have to become a better leader. You have to become better at hiring and managing and leading, and those are part of the journey. And you may say, oh, I suck at that right now or whatever, but in order to get there, it's who do you have to become. You can be beholden to being stuck where you're at and not being able to get to the goal, or you can choose the path that is the right path, which is, okay, I got to get better. And that's the biggest part of the whole journey is, the areas that you may not even know you have to get better in, that you recognize in order for me to get there, do experience, those things that you want, you're going to have to change. And when the vision's big enough, man, that work's not hard. It's just, now I'm here. Now I just got to work on this.
I think it gives you a framework to be able to think, and I would recommend, if you guys haven't gone through Outwitting the Devil in a while, to revisit it. I would move it up to my number 2 book recommendation of all time, behind The Gap in the Gain. I would recommend Outwitting the Devil, and it's a close second. It might be a 1A, 1B, and the reason is that the being paralyzed there is fear, and really where the conversation of that other self, right? One is fear, which in the context of Napoleon Hill's work is the devil, and then the other self that he talks about is really faith. And the number one thing, right? Because where 98% of the people on this planet live, and they live in a phase of what Napoleon Hill talks about as drifting. And you go back to the most important law of success. He even wrote, think and grow rich. But the most powerful law and the law of success is accurate thought. And how you overcome fear, and you overcome drifting, and how you maintain to be the 2 out of 100 is that you have the ability to think, and think accurately. And where that comes from is a framework of mental models, of being able to how to think through problems. Like one of my favorite things, right? Because it allows you into drifting, because you and I say this all the time. Well, one, what's the goal? But one of the other most important things, what else could it mean? Right? That's a mental model. That's a way to rethink. And that's how you stop from drifting. And that's how you're able to maintain the faith and think through whatever situation is in front of you to be able to get to the destination and the goal that you're after. And if you guys anybody listening in, if you haven't gone through Outwitting the Devil, I would, Napoleon Hill, there's a whole story behind it of why it got released so late. Sharon Lecter took over the Napoleon Hill Foundation after certain family members had passed. And then they were able to release it. And she's responsible for rejuvenating the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And Sharon Lecter is the reason that we know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that would have never came to life if it wasn't for her. And, she brings it. But what I would recommend is getting a hard copy and also listening it to on Audible.
It's so good on Audible.
It is so good on Audible. It is that important of a foundation of context. And it's, like I said, it's probably a 1B, maybe 1A, 1B. It's going to be right there with The Gap in the Gain. And here we are, right? We're talking about the way to think. And that's the most important thing for all of us. We can give you guys all the tactics, all of the frameworks. We can get you to model everything you want to model. None of that shit matters until you can get the inner side dialed in the inner side inside of your head first.
And I haven't listened to that book in might be 10 years, might be longer, but I just
probably when it came out. I bet you listened to it because we talked about it in Mastermind as soon as it came out. And
what year was that?
2011.
11. Yeah.
2011 timeframe it came out. Had been written back in the 1930s.
Crazy.
Did not come out till 2010, 2011. And I want to run it. You guys you need to go through the story. It is that powerful. It's one of the most powerful books that you can read.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Nick Good.
What's up, Nick Good in the hood?
So I know we got a few minutes here. If you guys have any questions, throw it in. But we're rounding third. We're getting close to rounding third to heading to home as we head into Q4. People make moves, professionals make moves statistically, October, November, January. This is a great opportunity to have those conversations, continuing to follow up.
It's recruiting season.
It is recruiting season.
Yeah, we'll see everybody first week of October in Las Vegas for EXPCon. Get your tickets. Excited. Glenn brought in the Gracie family to do a series of self-defense for real estate classes that anybody can attend, which I thought was a brilliant move, and couldn't have gotten a better organization than the Gracie family to go and lead these. What I learned today, because I read I was reading the press release on this, is that Glenn Sanford has 27 years experience in grappling and judo and whatchamacallit,
martial arts.
Yeah, but what's the Gracie martial art?
Jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu. I had no idea. Did you guys?
I did not know that.
I had heard that he had, and it explains a lot. I had heard that back during the pandemic time when he was hot on Clubhouse, and he was on. And I remember listening to a conversation with him and Cardone on Clubhouse, and he talked about his martial arts background. And I'm like, this says a lot about his calming ability, his calming nature, and how thoughtful he is. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that is. I would imagine, I don't know. I'm probably just talking, out of my own opinion here, but I think out of most of the martial arts, wrestling and jiu-jitsu is more mental than anything, because you could have someone that is in prime physical shape, super strong, go against someone who's a judo master, and the judo master is going to beat them, or I'm sorry, jiu-jitsu, because it's a thinking game, and they're thinking ahead like a chess match of what could this person, if I do this, what is this person going to do? Get ahead of it and get them in a submission hole that you just don't think about. And it is such a thinking game. So that's, not to say there isn't physicality to it, because clearly there is, in wrestling too. I wrestled, and it wasn't always the strongest kid out there often that won. It was the better thinker that could, strategize and find their opponent's weakness and then take advantage of that. So it was cool that I didn't know that we had a jiu-jitsu master add another thing to the resume of Glenn Sanford. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. Well, very cool. Well, always love jumping in, hanging with you guys. And I know we got heady, and I think it's super important, especially with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of agents right now, and being able to give them some tools to help think, I think is probably one of the gifts, the biggest gifts that we can give back to the Honey Badger Nation and everybody listening in, is because that's really where it starts, is having a solid framework of how to accurately think through kind of current situation, think into the future, and then being able to have a framework to problem solve is so invaluable.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate you guys all tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to throw it in. If you need to want to hit us up, DM us directly. honeybadgernation.com is your go-to resource for everything. And we'll keep rocking with you guys, and we'll see you guys soon.
Love y'all.
See you guys. Love y'all.